Hello everyone and welcome to Fitness Reloaded. I'm really excited today. I have top food behaviorist Isabel Foxen Duke with me. And we're gonna discuss cravings. We're gonna discuss why you gain weight when you want to lose weight. And also why screaming stop to yourself when you're eating doesn't actually make you stop eating, but it usually makes you eat more of it. So if you relate to any one of those scenarios, Isabel will give us her expert advice today. So Isabel, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Maria. I'm super excited to be here.
Same here. I'm very excited to be here with you. I promised to my folks I would get you to talk to us. So I'm happy I made it happen.
Yes.
So let's start with the first issue. Why screaming stop makes us eat more rather than less?
I just want to say I love this question. I think that this question really encapsulates a lot of sort of bigger picture answers in it. But I'll just start with this. So ultimately, the vast majority of compulsive overeating or emotional eating or binge eating that women see stems from deprivation, right? Like that's what many people don't understand is that it's actually pretty well documented, and there's like an enormous amount of evidence to support the idea that restriction, deprivation, sort of harsh diets, diets in general, really, right? Like excessive control, which really also has to do more with your mind than necessarily even what you're doing with food, ultimately leads to rebellious behaviors with food, right? Like if you tell a kid in a toy store not to touch the toys, all they're going to want to do is touch the toys, right? If you put yourself into a box, all you're going to want to do is break out of it, right? When you could, so that's sort of a very human, natural emotion that I think many people they intellectually understand it, but they're just so bombarded. Most of us are so bombarded with the opposite message all day. The message that, here's this quick fix to lose 10 pounds. Like dieting is really easy. Dieting is the solution to all of your problems. Just go and do it and your life will be magical and rainbows and unicorns and puppy dogs will pop out of the sky. We sort of get those messages every day. So even though we sort of intellectually understand the rebellious nature of deprivation and then, of course, falling to the other side of that deprivation, we are just so overwhelmed by messages that tell us otherwise that I think most of us don't really think about it really. We can't stop dieting. We can't stop depriving ourselves. We're so habituated into that behavior. Now,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say ultimately also like the one last thing that I'll say on that is that, and this would be something that Maria, I'm sure, you might have a comment on this as well. Ultimately, the way the human brain works is that when you say the word not, right? When you negate something, when you say do not eat, your brain is still thinking about food when you say do not eat. Right? So when you say do not eat, all your brain is actually thinking about in that sentence is eating. You're still thinking about eating even when you say the sentence do not eat.
Because you just included the word eat in your sentence. So obviously you're thinking about it.
Exactly.
It's so not like go for a walk.
Right. Exactly.
No
exactly.
eating in the sentence.
Exactly. Totally. Right. Like you are the perfect person to have this conversation with because this is totally what, relevant to what you talk about in your book. But ultimately, that's something that people also really struggle with is most women, when they're dealing with emotional eating, their solution to emotional eating is to sit on their hands trying not to eat, right? Telling themselves, don't eat, don't eat, don't eat, don't eat. And of course, when you...
like so much work.
I know.
It seems like it's exhausting.
Oh, it's incredibly exhausting. It is so exhausting. It is, and especially, and it's frustrating. Not only is it exhausting, but it's frustrating because ultimately most of us don't have the willpower to withstand food when all we're doing is thinking about food all day long, right?
So I see what is happening here. So you choose a diet or maybe a way of eating, maybe let's say no junk foods.
Right.
But then you think about it all the time and you're like, stop eating junk food, for example,
Right.
or stop
Right.
eating biscuits, whatever.
Right.
And then all you're thinking about is biscuits.
Yeah.
And you end up eating those biscuits, and then
Right.
like the diet that didn't include biscuits didn't work, so I have to try something else. So
Yeah.
then you try this other diet that restricts something else,
Yep.
and then you're thinking about this other thing, but then you end up doing it because that's
'Cause you're
how
thinking about
your
it.
mind works. So this other diet also doesn't work. So now you have two diets that didn't work for you.
Right. Right. The key thing is like our brain doesn't process negatives all that well. But we think that the only way to make healthful choices around food is to not do things, right? So we're running around thinking about how to not do things that we think we shouldn't do. And ultimately, in trying to not do things, all we end up doing is thinking about that thing we're not supposed to do and becoming obsessed with it and wanting to eat it more. So yeah.
Except for frustration and also helplessness, because you pretty much don't know what else to do, and despair.
Right.
How does this, how having this issue affects your life?
Okay, so this is a really great question, and this is a really, really important question for any of you who struggle with this and are really thinking about doing deeper work around it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you are running around all the time telling yourself, don't eat, don't eat, don't eat, don't eat, worrying about what you're not supposed to eat, worrying about what you can eat, worrying about how what you ate yesterday is going to affect you today, you have to think about the opportunity cost in your mind, right? Like, if that's all you're thinking about, think about what are you not thinking about? What are you not spending time doing? You're probably not spending as much time doing actually productive work in the world, right? You're probably not spending as much time thinking about your children and your husband and your family and your work life. And, think about how much energy, we only have a limited amount of energy in our bodies in any day. If we're spending all this energy worrying about food all the time and thinking about food and feeling crazy around food all the time, that energy is not being used elsewhere. So that's being taken away from somewhere.
Yes, so you're saying that if we didn't devote our mental resources on screaming stop and just trying to control our food behaviors, then we have a lot of resources to maybe excel at work.
Yeah.
Or maybe just have fun with our kids.
Yeah. Totally.
Call up our friends and go out.
Yeah. Like have a big old life, like
something other than, oh, don't eat this, don't do that. Oh, and then at the end of the day, I'm so tired. Obviously, because you exhausted yourself by trying to control everything and every little thing and your thoughts and your mind, and you were going crazy.
100%. 100%. I mean, that really is, at the end of the day, in my opinion, the biggest drawback of this whole cycle and this whole problem is how it strips us of the rest of our life. It really holds us back from living our life in a way that we want to, right? Now, our relationships with our bodies do the same thing. I feel like so many women who are trapped in the cycle, they also spend a lot of time worrying about their bodies, worrying about how people are perceiving their bodies, which ultimately also does, ironically, contribute to this don't eat, don't eat, don't eat mindset, which of course makes us want to eat more. So in many ways, not only does telling yourself to stop make you want to eat more, even just telling yourself you're too fat, you're not good enough, you need to lose weight, even that cycle of thoughts ultimately also makes you eat more, which is really interesting. So it's not just the food, it's not just telling yourself to stop eating that makes you eat more. It's also when we talk to ourselves, when we talk down to ourselves and talk poorly about our body to ourselves, that triggers this whole cycle where we ultimately end up wanting to eat more.
Is this why you're gaining weight when you want to lose weight?
Yeah, basically, right? Like we're so focused on how much we want to lose weight that all we can think about is what we're not supposed to eat. And all we can do is sort of like judge our food, and we become obsessed with food and crazy around food. I always say the degree to which you are obsessed with weight is the degree to which you're obsessed with food, right? Like those two things can't really be separated. If your weight dictates your self-esteem, you can't not be obsessed with food. Like if weight is that important, if it's that critical, if it's like the thing that makes you feel okay or not okay in your life, food is going to be the most important thing in your life. Food is going to be critical. It's going to be it's going to consume you. And anytime we are that obsessed with food, anytime food is that important to us, or we, are thinking about food that much, we have a 96% chance of overeating rather than eating what might be just appropriate for our bodies.
Yes. And if you are in this cycle where you judge your body, like you look in the mirror and you notice all the bad parts, and then you obsess about food because you want all those things that stick out to just vanish from the face of the earth.
Right.
How does this, obviously this is a self-esteem issue.
Mm-hmm.
But how does this show up in your life, like let's say with your intimate relationships, or like with the way, even when you go out with your friends or at work, does this have like an effect?
Totally. I mean, if you think about it, I always say, this is an example that I'll just tell of my own story that I know a lot of women relate to. I remember wanting to go to my high school prom, and I think it wasn't the big prom, but it was like one of like my high school dances, right? Mm-hmm. And I was really feeling insecure about my body to the point where I didn't want to go to the dance. I just wanted to stay home because I was so embarrassed and ashamed of my body that I didn't want to go to the dance. Now, what did I end up doing instead of going to the dance? I ended up staying home and eating ice cream and watching movies, which is this irony, right? Like I ended up needing food to comfort myself because I was so upset about how ashamed of my body I was. Now, if that is an irony.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what. Example. Yeah, I don't know what is, if that isn't ironic, I don't know what is, and I think that this is something that women are falling into all of the time, right? Like they don't want to have sex with their partners because they feel badly about their bodies. So instead of receiving sexual pleasure, they get pleasure from food. Or, even just going out with friends, right? Like I don't want to be seen, so I'm not going to receive the pleasure of just like having fun and enjoying, dinner out with my friends, or just being with my friends without dinner, like I'm going to deny myself these pleasures in life that my body, because I'm afraid of my body being seen. And so then I'm left with only the pleasure of food. That's all I have left.
So there's no way out.
Yeah. Well,
it seems that
there is
ways to keep eating and then keep judging yourself, and then eat some more to comfort yourself for judging yourself.
Yeah,
the cycle just keeps on.
It's a cycle that keeps on. It can keep on going forever, and so many women are trapped in the cycle because the only way out of the cycle, most women are trying to solve the cycle the wrong way, basically. Most people think the answer to the problem of body shame is to diet, is to do the don't eat thing, which of course...
Before we go to the solution part, I'd also like to discuss sugar cravings and eating for comforts. So I guess, we have kind of touched upon this with our discussion so far, but I'd like to know what you have to say about that. Like, why do people crave
sugar?
Have this tendency to eat all that sweet stuff? Is it something bad, something we should cut out? Is it okay? Is it because we are compulsive eaters? Like, what's up?
So this is my perspective on the sugar situation. So your body, one of the things that I teach women to do is really listen to their bodies about making decisions around food. Most women who have a history of dieting are very out of touch with what their bodies want around food, because dieting actually trains us to ignore our bodies and not listen, right? So the first sort of step of this is we need to start listening to our bodies and what our body wants rather than, looking at a sheet of paper to tell us what to eat. The sheet of paper is like a box. Anytime we're in a box, we're going to want to break out of the box. So first things first is, can we start to make decisions around food ourselves? Can we be empowered in making decisions around food ourselves, which is very scary, but this is a skill that women can learn how to do. This is a skill that I teach women, right? Is how to start trusting themselves to make decisions around food. And a big part of that trust is through listening to your body. Now, sugar is not something that your body wants, right? Sugar doesn't make your body happy. It kind of makes you feel a little gross. It doesn't make you feel physically well. It's not supporting your health in any way. But it does have an emotional role in our lives, right? So it's celebratory, like birthday cake. It's a celebration. It's a treat. Like alcohol is also a treat. Yes. It's a celebration, right? So there is something to be said for understanding why you use sugar without shaming yourself, right? Like don't even get into the shame. Once you're in the shame judgment zone with sugar, you're in that box of, oh God, I can't believe I ate sugar. I suck. I'm bad. I might as well go eat a whole tin of cupcakes because tomorrow I promise I'm never going to eat them again. Right?
Today's my last chance.
Right.
I better eat all of them.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, instead of looking at sugar through this lens of I'm not supposed to eat it, or am I allowed to eat it, or whatever, know that, you're an adult. You're allowed to eat sugar if you want to eat sugar, just the way you're allowed to have a glass of wine. And it's important for you to understand, it's important for all women to understand that like they are empowered to make the choice to have something that might not be the best thing for their body, but if they want to have it for emotional reasons or for celebrational reasons or, whatever, you're allowed to do that, right? We need to start removing morality from sugar, right? Like there's this big moral judgment around sugar. Like it's like the devil, I've even read that in various different publications, right? Like health blogs, I think often as like in like a tongue-in-cheek way, but also kind of serious, will call sugar the devil. And I think that that's really problematic. Like we need to be able to know that we're adults, we're grown women, we're allowed to do whatever we want. It's our bodies. No one can tell us what to put in our own bodies, but just be aware of what different foods have, like what kind of consequences different foods have on our bodies based on how they make us feel. Right? And really only you can make that decision for yourself in any given moment.
So the way out is listening to our bodies?
That is part of the way out. That is, I would say it's a small part, actually. It's kind of like step one. I think that most of us need to first and foremost get rid of the box, right? Which is what I call diets. Most of us need to start to realize that as long as we are making decisions based on what we read on a piece of paper versus consulting our bodies, we're probably going to want to rebel. We're probably going to want to break out of that box.
So step one is realizing that if we just keep doing what we've already been doing with diets and stop and trying to control all that stuff, then we'll just keep getting the same results, which is eating more.
Yep. Exactly.
So dieting and controlling is not the way. So the box, yes, you said, is like throw this box out.
Yeah.
Forget about diets.
Exactly. We got to throw the box out.
How the solution starts.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, exactly. We got to get rid of the box. We have to start with a framework of emotionally understanding that we are allowed to do with our bodies what we want. And really it's about the difference between making empowered choices versus making shame-based choices, right? So I'm allowed to eat a cupcake whenever I want. It's just that intellectually I understand that the consequence of eating a cupcake is that it just might not make me feel that great. It's not what my body really wants, right? So that's just the consequence of eating a cupcake is just simply that. If I decide to make that choice, I'm allowed to make that choice, right? I'm allowed to do whatever I want as long as I am willing to deal with the quote unquote consequences, which are that a cupcake might not make me feel all that good. And that's it. Like, that's really it. Now, ultimately, the more we're making choices around food that feel good in our bodies, meaning that, making choices around food that our bodies want rather than what our minds want, the more likely we are to have, be physically healthful, right?
So can you explain this distinction a little bit more? So what feels good for our bodies, so physically, and what feels good for our minds?
Yes.
Because I guess some people will find it confusing to differentiate between the two.
Yeah. So the most classic example is our bodies want food for instance, when they're physically hungry. So when you actually feel like a physical sensation of hunger in your stomach, a growl in your stomach, that's your body calling for food. It's your body asking for something. Your body is giving you very clear physical signals all the time about what it needs. Not only what to eat and when to stop and when to eat and, when to stop eating, but also that's why people have actual physical cravings for certain foods. Yesterday, I remember I didn't really get to eat any vegetables because I was so busy with work. And then for dinner, I was craving a salad. I needed a salad because that's really what my body wanted after basically eating junk all day. So your body, when we tune into it and listen to it, is actually asking for the foods that are going to make it feel well and provide us the most physical well-being and health.
So we have guidance.
Yeah.
We have our own personal guidance on what is good for us. And it's always available.
It's always available, exactly. If we tune into it, which is the key thing. Most women, not most women, but I'll say women who have a history of dieting tend to be more tuned out, and they need to practice tuning back in. Because when we're dieting, when we're making decisions around food based on the sheet of paper, right? Based on the box, based off the sheet of paper, we are actively ignoring our bodies, right? So we train ourselves to ignore our bodies. We train ourselves to not listen. When we were babies, we listened to our bodies automatically. We didn't even think about it. Yeah. It was obvious. It was very, it was an automatic response. It was totally natural. It was instinctive to listen to our bodies around food. But through all of the dieting, we've trained ourselves to ignore our bodies. So we need to get back in touch, right? Most dieters need to get back in touch with what their bodies want to eat.
It's very interesting, the example with the babies. So when we're babies, obviously when we're hungry, we cry. And if they try to feed us when we're not hungry, we just don't eat and sleep instead, or something.
Yeah.
Like that. And moms are oh, she's not eating again. What will I do?
Right. Yeah. I mean, isn't it interesting that when you were 1 year old, you could make probably healthier choices around food than you can now?
You were very in tune with what you wanted at, each point in time.
Exactly. It is your God-given birthright to know what to eat instinctively. You don't need to read a book. You don't need to ask somebody, right? We just knew when we were babies what to eat. The problem is that through all the crazy dieting, we lose that ability. So then we need to relearn it, basically.
So how do you relearn it? What's your suggestion? And from your experience, you've worked with so many women so far. How do you help them, and what do you suggest to them?
Yeah, so this whole listening to your body thing is very specific. It's called intuitive eating, right? And I am not the only person talking about intuitive eating. There are lots of people talking about intuitive eating, so that's a really common, that's a common sort of philosophy that a lot of people are talking about. I teach intuitive eating in a very specific way because I find that a lot of people who are teaching intuitive eating are teaching it with the wrong, they're still teaching it with diet mentality in mind. And in my opinion, it's not what you're eating that even really matters. It's how you think about what you're eating. It's how you feel about what you're eating that's ultimately going to make the difference in being able to achieve actual behavioral change.
And apart from behavioral change, this also makes sense because when we eat something that makes us feel bad and it stresses us, then cortisol, which is like the stress hormone, makes sure it all becomes fat. So it's been proven by studies that, I think it's cortisol, that's the stress hormone, that makes you store more fats if you have it in your body. So
Mark David talks about that a lot. Are you familiar with Mark David from the Institute for Eating of Psychology?
No.
He talks about that a lot. He is obsessed with cortisol. And you're absolutely right. Like when we feel stressed out, we go into like caveman fear mode. And when what cavemen used to be stressed out about was starving to death.
Yes. Yeah, so let's eat as much as I can and make sure I store every little bit of it.
Right.
So I don't die.
Right, exactly. So from an evolutionary perspective, when you get stressed out, your body's doing everything it can to conserve calories because ultimately the way we evolved was such that our biggest stressor in life for thousands and thousands of years was starvation or was the threat of starvation. So when we get stressed out, it makes sense that our body would shoot up with cortisol, because like that's how we evolved as animals.
So eat that ice cream and feel bad about it, and you're making sure you store everything.
Yeah. Right. When we judge and shame ourselves around food, we're certainly not helping ourselves lose weight. That's definitely not getting us anywhere.
So for those of you who are not familiar with Isabel's work, she has just launched a program that helps people with emotional and binge eating troubles get over them for good.
Yeah.
So can you talk to us about it?
Yeah. So I am offering this free video training series called Stop Fighting Food that essentially helps women break this cycle that we've been talking about,
No
right?
diet.
The diet binge cycle.
No
We're breaking the diet binge cycle, right? We're breaking this habit of constantly trying to lose weight only to end up eating peanut butter with a spoon out of our cupboards, in the middle of the night. And this is something, most women think that they're the only one who quote unquote can't control themselves around food. This is lots of women. This is women all over the place. This is like epidemic proportions of women that this is happening to, where there can be really good in quotes all day and then completely lose it, right? And there's very specific reasons for why this cycle takes place. And also, obviously emotional eating is very related to this, right? Like emotional eating, just eating to soothe ourselves, to comfort ourselves, that all plays a role in this because generally speaking, when we're experiencing emotions, when we're dealing with emotional duress, that's when we kind of lose our willpower, in quotes, right? Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Or maybe we lose it in the morning and we eat something we're not supposed to eat and then we're like, screw it. I'm just going to eat everything.
Exactly. And that's where emotional eating becomes binge eating, right? So that's one thing that they're going to learn in the video training series essentially is, the differences between emotional eating and binge eating, kind of identifying when you're doing each or which one you're struggling with at any given time. That's a perfect example of something that's going to be covered in the series. So this free video training series, it's 3 videos that basically talk about these core ideas and sort of gives you very specific concrete skills for how to start breaking the cycle and getting out of this sort of craziness with food.
And so for just a few more days, right? I think it's October 10th that they go down.
Yes. So this is a limited time. You definitely want to sign up now if you're interested.
Do you want to show us like how people get to sign up for it?
Yes,
so I'm gonna give the link to you guys below this video and just click on it. You land on this page where you can watch Isabel's video. And you just put your name and email there at the box and click get it and you'll get into the free training videos.
Yep,
and
so you can watch.
I watched them last week, and I was really impressed. Like, I learned things from Isabel, and I was like, yeah, Isabel is right. I had never thought about it this way, you know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I especially like the onion analogy.
Oh, good, good. Yes, that
Yeah.
seemed to be very popular. Yeah, the onion analogy is super, super important because so many women are trying to combat emotional eating without dealing with the shame and the judgment and the guilt, which ultimately is what causes binge eating. So it's kind of like they're trying to attack one thing, but in attacking that thing in the wrong way, they end up eating more. So it's important. So yeah, so these are all, if any of you out there are struggling with emotional eating, this is a program that you want to go through. Like, you want to watch these videos. So yeah, so definitely check out the trailer. There's a nice, really pretty trailer that kind of explains what the program is about.
I agree.
Thank you. And then definitely if you want the 3 free videos, enter your name and email and we'll send you a link to watch the 3 free videos.
And what's next? So you watch the free videos, and then there's the masterclass, right?
Yes. So
how is it different from the free videos?
So the master class is basically a more comprehensive program, right? So if you watch the 3 videos and you are totally hooked and are like, wow, this woman is onto something. She really gets it. She really knows something that I don't. Mm-hmm. She has a solution to a problem that I'm dealing with that I don't know how else to solve. And you just feel really compelled by the work and want to do more of the work. The master class is a deeper dive, right? It's an extensive, it's a program. It's 4 months long. It includes coaching with me. We'll talk on the phone. There'll be other women in the class that you'll be going through the program with that you can connect with and sort of create community of women around people who really understand this and are really trying to change their relationship with food. I think one of the hard things about this particular topic is that most women who are struggling with emotional eating and binge eating really feel like they're very alone in it. So it's important to really start to develop relationships with people who are trying to get to the other side together so you can support each other. And then ultimately it comes with, there's just, various different, very specific lectures that we're going to go through where I'm going to teach you pretty much everything you need to know in order to transition from feeling crazy around food and like being on the diet binge cycle and feeling like you are like trapped in this like cycle that won't end to really escaping that and achieving sanity around food and feeling like you can eat quote unquote normally. Like you can order the pasta Alfredo on a special occasion and have a few bites and it's not a big deal and you don't even think about it afterwards. You're not like shoving it in your face as fast as you can because you're not sure when you're going to be able to eat it again.
I really liked an example you gave in your free videos when you said the normal eaters may have a piece of chocolate in their bag and forget about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
I thought that was very on point, and yeah. So
yeah.
That's what you'll get to. I guess that's where people are going through. That's where they will get to through these 4 months, right? Become normal eaters and not be like, how much did I eat? How much more can I eat? This food or that food, but just be like, okay, food just like anything else.
Exactly. You could take it or leave it. It's not a big deal. You don't really care. If you have a piece of chocolate, you can have a piece of chocolate, but you're not like, where's the chocolate right now?
Like, I guess, watching movies or TV series. Some movies you want to watch, some movies you don't want to watch. Some movies become boring and in the middle, so you just stop watching them and do something else.
Yep.
No big deal. You don't go crazy about what movie should I watch.
Yeah.
Is this okay? Is that okay? Maybe 2 hours too long. Maybe 1 hour and 30 minutes is better.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
No, maybe I can watch 5 minutes more of this movie.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're talking about. Is we want to get, the master class is really where, you really want to get into the master class if you're committed to dealing with this issue and stepping away from the craziness around food and really moving into peace and sanity around food, right? Like, it's just not a big deal. It's not something that I struggle with every day. I'm not constantly.
It's over.
Yeah, it's over.
And then you get to take those mental resources we're discussing before and put them at your work and become an overachiever.
Yeah.
Or,
Like me.
you can put them to your kids and have a lot more fun with them and paint with them or go out for walks with them or just have more fun with your boyfriend or husband.
Yeah.
Better sex.
Yeah. Yeah. I always ask people, like, what would you have time for if you weren't thinking about food all the time?
And also, what would be better if you were not thinking about food? Because it dilutes your focus. Like if you go out with friends and instead of having fun with friends or being engaged in a conversation, let's say, you're thinking,
bread basket.
What should I eat? All that stuff. Then you're there, but you're not really there.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. 100%. I get this example all the time. Yeah, totally. Because you can be present for people when you're not obsessed with food. I remember I used to go out to dinner with my friends and I would just be I would just stare at the bread basket all dinner. Like I would just be so focused on the bread basket that I wasn't even really paying attention to what people were talking about.
Yes.
And that's the problem. That's really what we want to end here. Like we want people to be able to eat when they're eating and live when they're living and not have their life revolve around food anymore. That's what this is about.
So is this program, the masterclass,
mm-hmm.
So some people might relate to the things we've discussed here. Is it possible that some of them are not a good fit for the masterclass?
Yeah. So,
so who is this for and who is this not for?
Okay. So this program is mainly for somebody who really sees that their relationship with food is inhibiting the quality of their life, right? Like this is not just a weight loss program. This isn't really about the weight. This is about you feeling sane around food and reclaiming that sanity around food,
yes.
Which there's a ton of women out in the world who want to lose weight and it's just sort of like a passing thought, right? Like it's not a big deal. It's just something.
I should,
right.
Someday. Maybe.
Yeah. Right. And they don't really think about it and it's no biggie, right? It's just like it's a brief flickering thought in their day. This program is really for women who truly are struggling with the ins and outs of making decisions around food every day and really feel like thinking about food is compromising their sanity and their quality of life, and really want to break free, right? Like,
yes.
I felt like I was in such a prison when I was struggling with food. Like I constantly felt like I was I couldn't escape thinking about food all of the time. And I couldn't escape feeling badly about my body all the time. And I couldn't break out of this whole thought pattern. And I knew that was really diminishing the quality of my life. Like I knew that was affecting my relationships. I knew that was affecting my ability to work well. I knew that was just generally making me miserable, like
just didn't know how to get out.
I just didn't know how to get out, right? So,
and the more you tried, the worse it became because your only way of trying was
dieting.
Diet.
Yeah, exactly. I kept thinking that the solution to being uncomfortable in my body was a diet.
Harder.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And trying harder, which ultimately totally backfired. So, this program is really about women who feel like their mind has been compromised, right? Like your sanity has been that your thinking around food is not helping you, is unhealthy for you, right? It's not just about what you're eating, it's about the way you think about what you're eating. And that's who this program is really for, is for women who relate to that, for women who know that their relationship with food is what needs the help. More than just being told what to eat. I'm never going to tell you what to eat. That's something very specific. I don't tell people what to eat. I don't really care what my clients eat. I care that my clients are making whatever decisions feel healthful and good to them. And that they relate to food in a healthy way. And that their relationship with food is sane, peaceful, happy, free. That's what I care about. So this is more like life coaching.
Yes.
But just around the concept of food.
So what's your advice on people who just watched you and they were like, yes, I have this problem. It's very important. I know it dictates my life. Maybe they've already watched your few videos and they were fascinated with all the new things they learned, but they're on the fence.
Ooh. So ultimately, I think that the primary reason why anyone who really struggles with this and really related to my videos would be on the fence is because most women who have dealt with this issue have tried a million diets and have spent an enormous amount of money trying everything else, right? And they've just spent so much time and energy and resources trying to fix this problem. And in my head, it makes a lot of sense why that, there's a little bit of a lack of trust, right? Like,
Yes.
oh gosh, is this just going to be another thing that doesn't quote unquote work?
Because you've tried so many.
Because we've tried so many things, right? And ultimately, the only thing that I can really say to women in that position is A, do your homework, do your research, get to know me as best you can to make sure that I am the right coach for you. Like,
so what's your site? Like,
oh, my blog is isabelfoxenduke.com.
okay, so if you want to research and see for yourself how good Isabel is, or if she's a good fit with you, like if you need more confirmation, just go to her site.
Yep.
And she writes a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, so definitely. And also, if there's anything else that I can just say, it's that, this is not a weight loss program so much as a sanity program. And that's very different, right? So like every diet that you've probably ever done before is just doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. Like it's frustrating that you had to go through so many to figure out that they were all the same. Yes. This is the anti-diet, right? Like this is you saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to finally do something actually different than just trying to control my food and hoping that makes all my shame and unhappiness go away.
That must need a lot of courage.
It does need a lot. That's a really good point. It's scary.
It must feel scary to not keep trying the way you're used to trying. On the other hand, you had no results, so you've been frustrated over and over again with your previous dieting methods. So
totally.
There is motivation there to try something different, but it still must feel scary to not diet again.
Totally. I mean, that's the thing, is I think the reason why women fall into diets over and over and over again is because diets are within their comfort zone. We like going on diets because we know, even if it's a different diet, it's still in our comfort zone to just be on a diet, right? You're doing something really different when it's scary.
Yes.
That's how you're doing something really different.
It's new.
Yeah,
it's new.
Exactly. Okay. If it didn't feel a little bit uncomfortable, it wouldn't be new at all.
Perfect. You said it very well. So the free videos and the masterclass. So the free videos will be open until October 10th.
Yep.
Registration for the masterclass will also be open until October 10th.
Yep.
And when does the actual masterclass start?
October 14th.
Awesome. So if you're watching this right now, then go sign up for Isabel's videos. Watch the free series. If you're into it, if she speaks to your heart and to your everyday life, and you're ready to try something different and actually get out of this constant cycle, then you know what to do.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me, Maria. This was great.
You're welcome, Isabel. I'm thrilled I had you here today. I think we covered so many topics, and people who must have watched this must be like, like a breath of fresh air. So
I hope so.
I'm really excited for this, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds good.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.